This is Ms Bagley, and we're going to talk about ceramics in general. This is an introduction. What we want to know are the words ceramics, pottery, and clay. Ceramics is the art of producing objects from clay. Pottery are the actual objects themselves, and clay is the medium. So what is clay? Clay comes from where streams and rivers once flowed. It has small particles and minerals. You can dig it up yourself or you can buy it at the store. Our clay is purchased in 25-pound blocks that we cut with a wire. A knife won't work on those. This PowerPoint is huge, so I'm going to skip over a lot and let you just read. The construction methods. On here we have pinch, coil, leather hard slab, soft slab throwing, and clay pots. One of our first projects will be a pinch pot. It's very similar to throwing on the potter's wheel. And you will have the option for doing any types of variations to make your pot look really cool. The steps for making a bubble pot is 2 pinch pots put together. You have to slip and score the edges here. And then you could make pots similar to these. Another type of construction is coil. Coil just means it's this little long ropey piece of clay. And here are some student examples. When we make a slab project, we also add coil between the 2 slabs. This flat piece of clay is a slab, and we add a coil in the seam so that it doesn't crack apart. The coils need to be about the size of a spaghetti. Slab construction, we have slab rollers in the back of the room, but you can also use a rolling pin. If we let the slab dry out, we can make leather hard slab constructions, kind of like if you're making things out of cardboard, they'd have solid sides. Soft slabs we form while the clay is soft, and then we can drape clay over a mold to get a shape. Here are some leather hard slab constructions. You notice all the sides are straight. Here's some soft slab where we've made cylinders. These are 2-sided soft slabs where you make a template for the back and the front, and then you put the 2 pieces together. You seal it at the seams. And these are drapings in an armature where you just put the clay inside a bowl or over the outside of a bowl. This shows you a draping mold. Thrown pots are what we make on the potter's wheel. It doesn't mean that you're throwing the pots. It's the process for creating it on the potter's wheel. And modeling. This is one of my sculptures. It is a succubus. It's just when you model the clay, you push it and squeeze it and blend the clay with your fingers or tools. Can you identify these methods? Well, hopefully you would see this as a 2-sided soft slab. This is also soft slab. This has very straight sides, so that is leather hard. And this is one of my sculptures. It is 5 feet 7 inches high. It's made as a totem pole. This bottom piece is slab, and if you look at it up close, you can see my footprints in it. These are large coils. This is actually a coil that I blended. And this is a combination of a slab, where you can see my handprints in it, and then coils forming the rest of the body. Okay, for the processes, we have additive and subtractive, slip and score, sgraffito, texture, wedging, wipe your bottom, and some other ceramic terms. All of these terms are going to be on your vocabulary sheet, so you want to go through each of these pages carefully. Just pause the video when you get to certain words. Wedging is the process of mixing the clay. It's an important thing to do if you're reusing clay. And we do not want to have any clay or glaze on the bottom of the pot, otherwise it'll stick to the kiln shelf. Other ceramic terms, we have vitreous, a glassy, waterproof quality of high-fired clay. We have greenware, bisqueware, and glazeware. Another term we need to know is fused, where it's attached by heat, and non-porous. The glass coating of glaze makes your project non-porous, so it holds liquid. So greenware before firing, bisqueware once it's been fired, glazeware when we have glass coating on it. For decorative media, we use glaze, underglaze, shoe polish, acrylic paint, India ink, paint markers, and any number of things. You can do collage on your projects if you wish. We have glaze, which creates a non-porous surface. It's glass coating, and it's to use on large areas. Others are underglaze with clear glaze on top. This is just painting colored slip or colored clay. Acrylic paint, India ink with paint markers. This one is shoe polish, which is just a colored wax. And India ink with glaze. So I dripped the glaze on there to create this top color, and the black part is India ink. States of clay from wet to dry, you need to know these in order. The wettest clay is slip or slurry. This is what we use for glue. It's just clay with water. Workable clay, this is when you make your projects. The plastic clay is what I will give you fresh out of the bag. Once the clay starts to harden, we call it leather hard, where you can still bend it a little bit and it won't snap. Once it dries past this step, you cannot make your projects anymore. You just do finishing touches. Chocolate hard is where it's dry enough that it'll snap like a candy bar. You can carve into it at that point, but you can't add anything on. And bone dry clay is chalky dry clay, ready for the kiln and to be fired. So here's some descriptions of slip and slurry and plastic clay. Leather hard, chocolate hard, and bone dry clay. As an artist making your artwork, you need to make a decision every day at the end of class about how to store your clay overnight. If you want to stay in the same state so you can continue doing the step that you're doing, you want to wrap it airtight. If you want it to dry a little bit so you can go on to the next step, you want to wrap it loosely. And you want it to dry completely so that it's getting ready to go in the kiln. You want to tent it. That's just putting the bag over it and allowing a lot of air in it. Plastic, first steps when making the project, it should be flexible. Leather hard is the second step in making your project. The clay is firm but still bendable. You can still construct during this stage. Chocolate is the final stage. Like I said, you can snap it if you tried to bend it. You can carve into it. You can use the scrubbing sponge to finish it off and make it smooth. And bone dry is when it goes into the kiln. These are the tools. You need to know these tools by name: modeling tool, fettle knife, lacing tool, subtracting tools, rib, miter tools, and some household tools. So this is your modeling tool with a wire loop, the fettle knife, and the lacing tool. We will also work on canvas at the table, and you'll use a flat bottom bowl like this so that the water doesn't tip over. You don't want one of these bowls that's too easy to tip. Modeling tools are for modeling, which means you're pushing or smushing the clay. It's important to blend the pieces of clay together. Your fingers are a little bit soft and squishy, so using one of these wooden tools, I usually dunk it in water as I use it, and I blend the clay with it. This loop up here is for subtracting if you need to remove some clay. The feather knife is for cutting large chunks of clay. Like if I give you a big piece of clay and I say cut it in half, share it with the person next to you, use the feather knife. We do not use it on our projects. This lacing needle right here is used for cutting on your projects if you need to cut out shapes or trim parts of your projects. Do not use that needle for drawing designs on your clay. It may cause cracks and the lines are too fine to be visible after the clay is fired. So if you want to draw designs on your clay, use a dull pencil and press deep. Other ceramic tools and substitutes if you're working at home. Instead of the lacing needle, you can use a toothpick. Instead of the feather knife, just a regular kitchen knife. Instead of a modeling tool, use the back end of a spoon. A reminder again about a dull pencil. All right, smaller subtracting tools. I have this wonderful tool right here called a sgraffito tool. With that tool, you can carve nice, deep, bold lines that'll hold the glaze and show the design work really well. You can also paint underglaze onto a surface like this one that's a dark color underglaze, and the tool is used to carve away that underglaze, letting the white clay show. These are ribs. We use them for modeling the clay. Smaller tools are modeling tools for blending. The bigger ones, we call them ribs. The miter tool, we have a couple of these. It cuts at either a 45-degree angle or a 60 or 30-degree angle over here. This is so that you can cut an edge, so you can put two beveled edges together. This edge right here is a beveled edge, and you will do this with leather hard clay. Other tools we use all the time for slipping and scoring. Slip is that watery clay, score just means scratch. In order to attach two pieces, you have to scratch it and add slip and score. We use toothbrushes, we use combs, we use the scrubby and the sponge. You can use them separate, or this is a combination. When you finish your project and it's dry and you want to put it in the kiln, look it over, see if there's any rough spots, and use the scrubby first with water, squeeze out the sponge and go over it and smooth off your project. Okay, equipment. Obviously, we have a kiln to fire your projects in. There's the potter's wheel, the slab roller, an extruder, and the time machines. So the kiln is basically an oven. We fire the clay to almost 2,000 degrees. Potter's wheel, we have a bunch of these in the classroom. It just spins the pot in a circle and use the same process as if you were doing a pinch pot by hand. The only thing is it's spinning it for you. Slab roller, sometimes we use rolling pins. It depends how many students are in the classroom. The extruder is kind of like a Play-Doh PlayStation. You put the clay in here and squish it out and it'll come out into different shapes. These are our time machines. Instead of sitting around waiting for your clay to dry, you can use a hair dryer or the heat gun. Just don't get too close to the clay, and do not dry one part of your project without the other. You need to dry things evenly, otherwise the projects can warp when they dry and they crack. Here's a bunch of video links, more video links. Including this one is my channel on YouTube, and John the Potter. We use his all the time. These are variations of beginners pinch pots. And here's some interesting cultural videos that I found. This woman does fabulous artwork, and we'll take a look at some of those. Vocabulary, I'm going to give you a handout sheet that goes with all of these terms. You can go through the PowerPoint and find the definitions.